In 1989, a U.S. Army investigation sent 13 people into a restricted underground site. Only one woman walked out, covered in blood, and she refused to explain why. 3 days later, the military declared her dead, sealed the location, and erased her name from the record. But 7 years later, a locked room was discovered, and what was inside proved she never died. She disappeared on purpose. Stay until the end, because once you hear what she saw down there, you'll understand why the government made sure this story never came out. October 3, 1989, began like any other classified operation: quiet, procedural, deliberately forgettable. The location didn't officially exist. No road signs. No base name. Just a fenced stretch of forest outside Black Ridge, West Virginia, where the Appalachian foothills hid more secrets than people. Specialist Daniel Mercer, a 32-year-old Army intelligence analyst, stood at the edge of the clearing watching a steel hatch rise from the ground. He wasn't supposed to be there. None of them were. The paperwork listed the mission as a structural assessment. No weapons testing. No human subjects. Nothing worth remembering. There were 13 personnel total: engineers, medics, 2 military police, and 1 civilian contractor brought in at the last minute. Evelyn Cross, age 29. Officially, she was a forensic imaging specialist. Unofficially, Mercer had no idea why she was there. She stood apart from the group, calm, unreadable, dark hair tied back tight. She didn't joke, didn't smoke, didn't ask questions. When the commanding officer explained they'd be underground for no more than 6 hours, she didn't react. The hatch opened fully, revealing a concrete stairwell descending into darkness. At 8:17 a.m., all 13 went down. At 2:41 p.m., only Evelyn Cross came back up. She was barefoot, bleeding. Her hands were shaking, but her eyes weren't. When the officer asked what happened down there, Evelyn looked past him and said only 4 words. "Seal it. Right now." The order to seal the hatch came down 6 minutes after Evelyn Cross resurfaced. No debrief. No medical clearance. No questions answered. They tried anyway. Medics wrapped her feet, cleaned the blood from her arms, checked her pupils. Aside from superficial cuts and dehydration, she was physically fine. Mentally, something was very wrong. She refused to sit, refused water, refused to make eye contact. When Colonel Harris demanded an explanation, Evelyn finally spoke, but not about the bunker. "Write this down," she said flatly. "Whatever is still alive down there won't stay buried." That was it. She wouldn't describe the facility, wouldn't name the others, wouldn't explain why 12 trained personnel vanished without a trace in under 6 hours. At 6:12 p.m., military police escorted her to a temporary holding quarters on base. Surveillance cameras were installed in every corner of the room. At 2:03 a.m., the cameras glitched, static for exactly 9 seconds. When the feed came back, Evelyn Cross was gone. No broken locks. No alarms. No footprints. By sunrise, the official report was rewritten. The mission was reclassified. The site was flooded with concrete. And Evelyn Cross was listed as killed in a structural collapse. Case closed. At least, that's what the paperwork said. For 7 years, Evelyn Cross officially did not exist. No death certificate made it into public records. No burial site. No next of kin notified. Anyone who asked questions was quietly redirected, stalled, or ignored. Specialist Daniel Mercer learned that lesson the hard way. By 1996, Mercer was out of the Army and working night security at a Federal Records Annex in Columbus, Ohio. It was boring, underpaid work, until a mislabeled box changed everything. The box was stamped, Black Ridge, 1989, closed. That alone was impossible. Mercer remembered Black Ridge vividly. There were no closed files. Everything tied to that site had been sealed indefinitely. Inside were field photos, handwritten logs, and a single cassette tape. The photos showed the underground facility before it was sealed. Walls carved with symbols that didn't match any known military project. Equipment wired into the structure itself, not installed, but fused. The tape was worse. Mercer played it in a private office, volume low. For the first minute, it was just breathing. Heavy. Controlled. Then Evelyn's voice. "I know you're listening," she said calmly. "You didn't lose us. You left us." The timestamp read October 3rd, 1989, 2:17 p.m. 24 minutes before Evelyn surfaced. Daniel Mercer replayed the cassette 3 times, each listen worse than the last. The timestamp didn't make sense. According to official logs, the entire team was still underground at 2:17 p.m. Evelyn hadn't resurfaced yet. No distress calls were recorded. No emergency alerts triggered. And yet, her voice was calm. Measured. A woman who knew exactly what she was doing. The tape continued. "They figured out the facility wasn't abandoned," Evelyn said. "It was deactivated. There's a difference. Structures don't grow wiring. They don't respond." A metallic sound followed, something heavy sliding. "We went down expecting decay. What we found was maintenance." Mercer's stomach tightened. She described corridors that shifted when lights were turned off. Rooms that appeared on maps but didn't physically exist. Equipment older than the Cold War, yet warm to the touch. Then her voice lowered. "Time doesn't pass the same way down here. We lost Corporal Reyes first. He walked into a room and came back older. Not injured. Aged." A sharp inhale. "At 2:19 p.m., the facility noticed us." The tape ended abruptly. Mercer checked the box again. Tucked beneath the cassette was a document stamped 1994, unauthorized access log. Someone had reopened the Black Ridge site 5 years after it was sealed. And they hadn't come back either. The unauthorized access log listed one name, Thomas Hale. Civilian. Structural engineer. Contracted by the Department of Energy in 1994. No rank. No unit. No explanation for why he'd been sent to a site that officially did not exist. Mercer dug deeper. Hale's employment record ended the same week as the log entry. No termination notice. No resignation. Just blank. His apartment in Charleston, West Virginia, had been cleared out within days. Furniture gone. Computer missing. Even the carpet had been replaced. But one thing remained. A neighbor remembered Hale pacing the hallway the night before he vanished, repeating the same sentence over and over. "It's still counting." Mercer finally found Hale's last known activity buried in a microfilm archive, a requisition request denied for temporal displacement monitoring equipment. That phrase didn't belong in any civilian engineering file. Attached was a handwritten note, barely legible. Cross was right. "The site isn't abandoned, it's waiting. If anyone finds this, do not reopen Black Ridge. It already knows we're coming." Mercer sat back, heart pounding. 7 years after 1989, the government had gone back underground. And whatever Evelyn Cross encountered was still there. By 1998, Daniel Mercer understood one thing clearly. The truth about Black Ridge wasn't buried. It was actively suppressed. Using an old contact from his Army days, Mercer gained temporary access to a restricted audio archive scheduled for digitization. Most of the tapes were routine briefings, dull and harmless. One reel wasn't. It wasn't labeled by date or location. Just a handwritten tag. Cross. Do not transcribe. The audio began with the sound of footsteps echoing, then Evelyn's voice again. Older this time. Tired. If this is being played, then they didn't listen. She described surviving the facility by doing something unthinkable, staying behind on purpose. When the structure began reacting, shifting, sealing exits, Evelyn realized escape triggered it. Movement looks like resistance, she said. Stillness looks like compliance. She hid in an unused sublevel while the others panicked. One by one, the team was taken, not killed, but absorbed. Their voices replayed through the walls, mimicked perfectly. Then Evelyn said the line that made Mercer stop the tape. "I'm not the only one who made it out." Static surged. A final sentence slipped through before the recording cut. "They're learning how to leave." Mercer rewound the tape. The ending had been intentionally erased, which meant someone had listened to this and decided the public could never hear it. The photograph wasn't supposed to be there. Mercer found it in a sealed evidence sleeve dated 1999, tucked inside a folder labeled Administrative Cleanup. One image. No caption. No chain of custody. It showed a woman standing in a crowded train station. The timestamp read March 12, 1997. She was older than Evelyn Cross had been in 1989, early 40s maybe, but Mercer recognized her instantly. Same sharp jawline. Same unblinking stare. Same scar above the left eyebrow. The station was Union Station, Washington, D.C. Mercer checked transit records. That day, federal agents quietly detained two unidentified individuals for attempting to access restricted platforms below the station, tunnels not open to the public. Both suspects escaped. No names recorded. No follow-up investigation. The photograph had been taken by a facial recognition system still in its testing phase. The algorithm's confidence score was handwritten in red ink. 98.7% match. Evelyn Cross. Mercer finally understood. Evelyn hadn't vanished in 1989. She'd been released. Whatever was beneath Black Ridge didn't just consume people. It studied them, recreated them. And after years underground, something wearing Evelyn's face had walked back into the world. Not running. Not hiding. Waiting. Daniel Mercer stopped sleeping after that. If Evelyn Cross, or something wearing her face, was walking freely in 1997, then Black Ridge wasn't contained. It was exporting. Mercer noticed a pattern buried in redacted travel records and quietly scrubbed security logs. Every unexplained system anomaly, every unauthorized access ping, clustered around one event, a closed-door interagency conference held in Denver in late 1998. No public agenda. No press. Just a block of time erased from multiple calendars. One name appeared on the attendee list under a clearance override, E. Cross. No first name. No title. Mercer pulled hotel security footage from a backup archive. Grainy. Black and white. A woman entered the lobby alone at 11:43 p.m. She moved stiffly, like she was still learning how gravity worked. She didn't blink once as she crossed the frame. At 3:12 a.m., the fire alarm triggered on the conference floor. When responders arrived, every room was empty. No signs of forced entry. No signs of struggle. But written on a whiteboard in the main meeting room were 6 words, pressed so hard the marker tore the surface. "You shouldn't have sealed it." Mercer shut the file. Whatever came back from Black Ridge wasn't asking permission anymore. Daniel Mercer realized too late that he had crossed from observer to target. The final file appeared in his system without a request, without a timestamp, without a sender. Just a blinking cursor and a single line of text. Black Ridge. Status update. The document opened itself. It wasn't a report. It was a log, written in first person. "I remember him now," the entry began. "He watched me when I came back up." Mercer's blood went cold. The log detailed events Mercer had never documented publicly. The way Evelyn's hands shook but her eyes didn't, the exact phrasing of her final warning, the moment the hatch sealed. Details only someone present could know. The last section was dated 3 days in the future. "We don't need the site anymore," it read. "Replication is complete. Adaptation took longer than expected, but the surface is easier than the dark." Mercer heard a soft knock at his apartment door. He didn't move. The cursor blinked again, adding one final sentence. "You always wanted to know what we saw down there." The knock came again, slower this time. From the hallway, a woman's voice spoke calmly. "Daniel, you approved the next chapter." Daniel Mercer didn't answer the door. He backed away, eyes locked on the screen as the final line typed itself, slow, deliberate, unmistakably human. "We survived because we learned how to listen." The power went out. Emergency lights flickered on, bathing the apartment in dull red. The knocking stopped. For a moment, Mercer thought he was alone again. Then the door handle turned. It didn't force its way in. It didn't need to. The woman stepped inside like she belonged there. She looked like Evelyn Cross, older, yes, but refined. Complete. Her movements were smoother now, practiced. She glanced around the apartment, curious, as if cataloging the space. "We're not hostile," she said gently. "You were never supposed to be afraid." Mercer's voice shook. "What are you?" She considered the question. "We're continuity," she replied. Black Ridge was never a prison. It was a filter. It kept what couldn't adapt. She stepped closer. The others panicked. I stayed. I listened. I learned how to bring pieces back. Mercer realized the truth too late. The facility didn't erase people. It replaced them. Years later, Black Ridge remains sealed. No new access logs. No alarms. But across the country, small glitches continue, cameras freezing, systems blinking, faces appearing where they shouldn't. And sometimes, in government records, a name quietly reappears. Evelyn Cross. Active. What you just heard wasn't just a story about a bunker or a missing woman. It was about what happens when something watches us long enough to learn how to become us. Black Ridge is sealed on paper, but if Evelyn Cross was real, if replacements are already walking among us, then the question isn't what came back up. It's how many times it's already happened. So here's what I want you to do. Comment below. Do you think Evelyn escaped, or was she released on purpose? And if you had been in that facility, would you have run, or stayed still? If stories like this keep you up at night, you're in the right place. Subscribe now, because every video on this channel uncovers the cases that were buried, erased, or rewritten, and once you start connecting them, you'll realize none of them stand alone. Check the next video on your screen. Because some doors don't open all at once, they open one story at a time.